Hi there, I'm Adam, the writer and director of Internet Story. I used to make these kinds of short films on YouTube, but right now I'm making a game, Stretchmancer. It's a sci-fi puzzly adventure where you can stretch the world. Because I'm now working full-time on Stretchmancer, I thought I'd release some of my previously exclusive Patreon content to fill your tummies. So please enjoy this director's commentary of Internet Story, and I'll see you at the end.
So it's been over 10 years since I made Internet Story. So I'm doing this director's commentary, doing all kinds of spoilers, just saying everything, whatever I want to about it. You've had 10 years to solve as much of this mystery as you want to. Here's the film. So we begin with some great music from Blair Mowat, who I work with a lot.
This is a true story about the internet. Please, don't go.
Okay, so it's interesting already, the fact that this is 10 years old. The fact that the narrator says, please don't go at this point, sort of was about the fact that when I wrote this 10 years ago, to say I'm making a short film about the internet made it sound like telling the most boring, nerdy story that you could. Like, the internet was still just computers, big chunky computers, sort of nerdy websites, that kind of thing. Like, you know, these days if you say, oh, I'm writing something about the internet, you're pretty much, you could be writing about anything in human existence, really, because we're all on the internet, all doing internety things all the time. Whereas I kind of had that line in, oh, don't go, because at the time it kind of felt kind of new what I was doing.
It's also the story of a treasure map and
A little bit about the OS I created for this. I sort of worried a lot about sort of being sued or not having permission to do to use certain images and stuff. So I kind of cobbled together something quite weird, which was I was using a Windows PC. I then used a program to make it look like Ubuntu. And then I tweaked the Ubuntu to look back more like Windows again. So that's why you've got these weird rectangular icons in the corners of the windows and stuff. But it's also why, like, the X is red and the other buttons are blue. My logic there was that Ubuntu was freeware, but I really wanted to make it feel like your average computer user, and everyone was on Windows at this time.
On the 22nd of April 2005, an entity going by the name of Al1 publishes a website.
Worth talking a bit about the voiceover from Sean French as well. Like, originally I pictured making this film with a voiceover with someone like Adam Buxton, someone a bit sort of humorous and kind of knowing. I did actually stumble into Adam Buxton in a pub, outside a pub. Gave him the script, but he never got back to me. So we did a casting for a voiceover, and Sean immediately blew me away when I heard his voice. And his voice is, some people have compared it to the voice from the guy from the Stanley Parable. I think it has a bit of a kind of Tales of the Crypt vibe to it, which I think kind of made it feel more creepypasta than I originally intended it. But, you know, I'm very happy with how it turned out. It's just interesting how these things change as you work with what you get.
Claiming that he's buried £9,000 somewhere in the UK and that it's anyone's to find.
So these notes are fake. I printed them out. I think I did a fairly good job. There's already some discrepancies that have come out. The date I've given, I think, is too early, and like maybe YouTube doesn't quite exist at this point, but definitely these £20 notes are the wrong £20 notes for the date that I've given. As sort of the internet sleuths kind of descended on this video, that was one of the early discrepancies that they pointed out.
I say he, as although the name could be short for Alexandra as much as Alan, or pronounced in a variety of other ways, we'll assume for convenience and probability's sake that this particular user is male.
Okay, so this bit reads a bit sexist now, more than it did 10 years ago. I think one of the other things about this is I was trying to nudge the viewer into thinking about other ways in which we might pronounce Al1. And as you sort of see right at the end of the film, or people worked out at the end of the film, his name is as much Alone as it is Al1. But anyway.
So Al1 tells us we're racing to solve his clues and locate the treasure before anyone else. And his only link takes us to a kind of broken...
So, just worth saying, I made this website for real. It's on Angel Fire. I think it's still there. It had a guest book, a hit counter. All of this was pretty genuine. Yeah, it was fun to make and fun for people to find.
Was watching. And 3 weeks later, he begins a video diary that will show his attempts to track down the mummy. The man goes by the name of Fortress, a fairly active user of YouTube and other popular forums. Fortress explains that as he gets nearer the treasure, he'll be adding a video every step of the way.
A bit about how I'm filming these Fortress scenes. We cast Duncan to play Fortress. I thought he did a kind of sort of nerdy but aggressive with it tone that I liked. Recorded the voiceover in my composer's house with a blanket in front of the microphone and that kind of thing. And then I later edited the audio down and then filmed with that audio playing in my ear. So these are my hands in my brother's bedroom, which I kind of, he was away at university, and I just sort of decorated it with as much sort of crappy, nerdy stuff. You can see a Star Fox poster in the background there, and other screens and stuff, and then kind of mimed along to his audio, which I was a real perfectionist over, and I remember doing 40 takes or something of each scene, just trying to kind of sync up and get my hand movements right and that kind of thing. Don't know if it works perfectly or not, but that's how I did it.
If you'll allow the digression, solving Al1's puzzle is made much easier with some knowledge of an old...
So I was really obsessed with this tale at this point. I always really wanted to do a story within a story, and I loved how beautifully simple The Pardoner's Tale is. It sort of shows that, maybe it wasn't that long ago that I'd just done my English degree, but I think it works pretty well. So at this point in time, most good animations, I think, were still made in Flash. So actually writing Flash animation was something you might actually search for. I think this one was very much inspired by the kind of high production value animations I'd seen, Littlefoot, Bitey's Castle, that kind of stuff. And I guess this frame is a bit inspired by Homestar Runner. This entire animation was done by Jonathan Harris, who did just an amazing job. Really, really like what he did. I provided the voices of the big one and the medium one. Composer Blair did the small guy, and you hear producer Ed Moline do the old man and the barkeep, my favourite role, later on. I like the way the small one's got the biggest sword and the big one's got the smallest sword.
You a spy for death? You're looking for death? You'll find him over there.
Remix of the Zelda music almost there.
Wait till sundown before we take this back. Go into town and get us some drinks.
3 drinks, governor. Here, they're in bottles.
Yeah, that's my favourite line of the film.
Have you got any strong poison?
So we get him when he comes back, and then our share will be even bigger. My old friend.
When I first saw this scene in Jonathan's storyboards, I was actually quite shocked, and I just really love it. It's great.
The simple tale concludes that if you go looking for death, you'll be sure to find it.
Yeah, so for a while I've been playing around with the idea of needing to know a story in order to solve a code. So the idea that A would be the beginning of the story and Z would be the end of the story, I thought was kind of cool. I'd not really seen that before. I don't know how easy it would actually be to solve a code like that. I'm not sure. It might be easier just to do it with letter frequencies and that kind of thing.
Put those moments in
So all
order,
these little
and you can start
pictures
building an
I drew
alphabet.
myself, like most
The first
things
scene
in here.
stands for A,
Got out
and
my
the last
old
scene for Z.
colouring pencils and stuff, give it quite a sort of childlike look, hopefully making Al1 look a little bit creepy or a little bit strange in the process. So yeah, Find Oak Tree by Yellow House, London, Zone 2. I mean, it's pretty ambiguous. I think I just was struggling to find a way of getting a Z into the code so that it would work with my whole storytelling code idea.
clearly I'm a genius. So you better give me 5 stars. And yeah, stay tuned.
So at this point in YouTube, you didn't have like and dislike. You had a 5-star system. So most videos ended with people begging you to give them 5 stars rather than to like and subscribe. So a bit of YouTube nostalgia there.
Of course, very few people were tuned at all to Fortress's video, ignored as it must have been by the usual searchers. Still, this did not discourage him.
So yeah, just worth saying, seen a few sort of mouse movements at this point. Like, I didn't really do any of this with screen recording, maybe 1 or 2 sections. Most of it was actually in After Effects. So I actually animated the mouse moving and changing and clicking on things. It's also worth pointing out that like a lot of the YouTube UI I also remade myself, like the pause buttons, the full screen buttons. I mean, they look almost identical, so I don't really know what I was thinking, but like, you know, it used to be a circle for the playhead, now it's a rectangle. At this point you can see that for some reason I changed it from YouTube to YOOTTUBE. You know, I guess I was just worried about YouTube suing me or something, and I guess they would still have the rights to sue me. I'm not really sure. But yeah, I don't really know what I was thinking when I did that.
Okay, so the yellow house is some bar.
So this is an actual bar in
there's a tree.
Surrey Quays, which I think is Zone 2 of London. I did not make the hole in this fence, and from looking at Google Street View, I think it's been fixed since. But yeah, I did get this old cupboard from a junk shop and paint it yellow, and I think you can kind of tell that paint's not even really fully dried. I think I got some weird looks moving that around on a trolley on the London Underground, and then sort of getting it here in the park. Pretty odd behaviour. But yeah, I had again filming this, I had the an MP3 player in my pocket playing Fortress's voiceover and timing to that. And here with the screws, I mean, the screws are really a way of showing that he's a man who always carries a penknife with him, which is a setup for later. You can kind of tell that if you look closely, the screws aren't actually like screwed into anything, or at least they're not locking the door in place. So when it opens, you can kind of see that like the screws wouldn't have actually been screwing into any wood. Like, so yeah, a bit of movie magic there. So I filmed this on an old mini DV camcorder, so you get some sort of interesting whiteout effects and stuff on here, and interlacing.
Home again and allows us a closer look. It's a passage from the.
I mean, it's a little bit odd what happens here in that Fortress ignores the like crazy colouring on the clue. I mean, it makes some sense in that like the poem is all correct apart from that last line about the house on the whale's tail. So, you know, he's right to focus on that, but like it is a bit, you know, you could say it's a bit of an odd fact that he completely ignores the Technicolor rendering. But you know, maybe you could say that he solved that bit and he didn't care. Who knows? It's up to you.
Fortress
I animated this little hourglass myself. Quite happy with that, even though it looks identical to a Windows one.
A whole 2 weeks before.
I quite liked printing out this clue in big lettering. It makes Fortress look suitably unhinged.
So he's actually talking about Sheepshagger Land.
Yeah, so here I only had a few maps in my house, and the first take I did, I drew the whale on it and screwed it up. So for all future takes, I got a sheet of plastic and put that in front of the bit, which probably looks a bit odd, but you know, maybe that's the sort of thing a Fortress might do.
And
seeing through the curtain here. I mean, I think it looks a lot like a whale. I think a lot of people didn't think that. You know, I always just looked at that shape and was like, oh, it looks like a whale. But yeah, not to everyone.
Grab some free satellite images and it becomes almost obvious.
So these satellite
The
images
house
are
on
all
the beached
real.
whale's tail, the
I've
uniquely
genuinely
shaped
seen
rapeseed
this
field in
house-shaped
the area
field
of Vellinamine
when I was sort
or
of
Yellowstone.
moving around Google Maps at some point. Google Maps, I think, was fairly new at the time and quite amazing. I think if you look at this space now, the field has maybe gone brown or green, like the photo's been updated. But I think it's still house-shaped, so yeah, pretty cool.
2 days later, and Fortress is travelling.
Okay, so a bit of fun trivia here. When the internet sleuths sort of descended on this video, some thinking it was real, some trying to prove that it wasn't, or work out more of the mystery. One pretty clever person noticed they freeze framed this shot of the spade and freeze framed the other shot of the spade from when Al1 is digging the money. And from a series of markings on the spade, they could work out that it was actually the same spade. And the funny kind of in-fiction conclusion was that Al1 and Fortress are the same person, and that, you know, Al1 killed himself, which is kind of amazing. It's kind of an amazing conclusion. The actual logical answer to it is, I only own one spade. So that's why it is the way it is. But I liked that interpretation.
There, outlining his journey, wondering what he'll do with £9,000.
I was always quite happy with this shot that, you know, that is me holding the camera to the window, but you cannot tell who it is. I've not had to alter that image in any way. That's just what the reflection came out like. I was always quite happy with that.
It doesn't occur to him. that
My
he might
bowl
be missing
haircut on
something,
show there.
like the
you
strange
look
and
closely.
technicolor rendering of Chaucer's verse, or the pattern in yellow on writing, signs, the yellow house bar, or a man travelling to Yellowstone, to a bright yellow field. Of course, no one noticed his omission.
Oh yeah, so at
He
this
was just
point,
another man shouting contest.
you got a lot
No
of
one noticed
spam
him.
comments that were like, I won a free iPod and that kind of thing. Thankfully, the comments on YouTube have actually got a bit better, I think.
If you ignore
I
everything
really
but the
liked
yellow
Blair's
letters,
music at this
another
point as
message
well.
appears.
Originally, I had Philip Glass's Pruitt Ego in the edit, and I think Blair did a good internet-y version of it.
2 days pass, and then the
So
farmer
obviously
finds
this
dead
is
man in the
a
middle of his land,
sort of
aged
rip-off
late
of the
teens to
BBC
early
News
20s,
website as it
average
looked
height,
in the
dark hair, a
noughties,
single
but
fatal
I actually
stab,
removed all
2
reference to
sets of
the
footprints,
BBC.
evidence of a struggle. But the body is never identified. And our problem is...
So this photo is actually the brother of a friend of mine. I don't think he really knew what he was in for. I just said like, hey, I'm doing a short film. I need a photo of a dead person. You've got a cool look. Could I just take some photos of you? And he was like, yeah, sure. I had seen some people pointed out that it was, you never see articles of like dead people, like photos of dead people in these kind of articles. But I think I had a reference of like someone's head like turned up on a beach and no one could identify it, and so they kind of had like a kind of censored photo of it such that people could identify it. So it felt like a feasible thing that someone might do, you know, open the eyes of a corpse so that people could identify him. But no one ever does identify him, which says something about his character, that no one was looking for him. I mean, if it is Fortress, if it is L1, I don't know.
Sometimes we just don't realise what we're looking for.
Yeah, I was quite happy with that shutdown sequence. I think my biggest regret with this film is I like the way this title page looks. This final title, it looks quite official. But for the actual credits, I really just did like the most basic Adobe Premiere credits I could. It's just not good title design. Look at that. The T of Tang is touching the Y of Lindsay Miller. That's my biggest regret. Otherwise, very, very happy with the film. It was interesting that like I didn't even really know the word creepypasta when I made it. I thought I was making something a little closer to kind of like an art house film in a way, like the idea of making a film where you didn't see the faces of any characters, where it was all told through sort of text and voiceover and different images. I thought I'd made something kind of experimental and kind of alienating. My friends liked it and I was like, okay, this is a bit better than that. And then it didn't do that well at festivals. Like, it didn't really make much sense in festivals, I don't think. And then, so I just put it online, not really thinking that much would come of it. And I just put it on my Vimeo. And like a sort of day later, the moment I found out something weird had happened was I got loads of emails of people commenting on Fortress's YouTube videos. These videos that I'd sort of put up with another account but had like a forwarding, and was like, wait, what's going on? And then I looked, and it was like blowing up with like thousands and thousands of people watching it. And some people will watch. Quite a lot of the views were actually going to a ripped version that was on YouTube. I wasn't smart enough to put a version on YouTube until a bit too late, really. Whatever. And I kind of realized, like, I had kind of created some fake websites and created some fake YouTube channels, but I didn't really expect to like fool anyone, and actually seemingly did fool people and kept people up at night, and had kind of unwittingly made like a creepypasta of some kind. And I just thought that was really cool. I loved taking people's imaginations like that. What else is there to say about the film? Like, I'm still really proud of it. I worked for a while on a feature film version of it that was very, very different. There's a full script of that, but like, it's still struggling to get made. I've sort of seen it used as references for the guys that made Searching. Have said that they were inspired by it. Searching's a great film, so they did a good job. And there's like, lots of other kind of screen capture films that have been made since, like Unfriended and Catfish and that kind of thing. And I don't know whether they've seen my film or not, but it does feel nice to have made one of the first films that did this kind of screen capture thing. I was inspired by other things. I was inspired by this film called Guy 101 that I thought was really cool, and a few other sort of internet-y things that I'd been thinking about. Thank you very much.
You made it to the end of the video. Well done, and thank you for watching. If you've got any unanswered questions, pop them in the comments and I'll try my best to answer as many of them as I can. And if you like supporting the kind of weird creative stuff I make, please wishlist Stretchmancer on Steam and join our lovely community Discord. Okay, happy YouTubing.